I'll call this meeting to order. The Polk County Board of Commissioners. Today is May 3rd. Commissioner Mordhorst has been excused. We'll start with any comments for items not on this agenda. Hearing none. We have a slight change to the agenda. Valerie Pawan is not available today. So if we could get a motion to approve the agenda.
I have an add-on too, as a regular agenda.
Okay. Absent number 7 and an add-on.
I would like to add resolution 23-05, which involves modifying the existing master fee schedule to include changes that have occurred at the state level for behavioral health and DMAP rates.
We'll replace that with our order number 2307 with 2305 on the agenda. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved. I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have a motion to approve the minutes from April 26th. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Moved.
I'll second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Order 23-05.
It's not an order. It's an actual resolution.
Resolution. I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, just a little history. Annually in July, the county puts forth a resolution to you to approve the master fee schedule for the county. Those fees include all functions of the county. Some refer to state rates, some refer to DMAP rates, some are rates that we have calculated ourselves as rates that we will be charging, i.e. like at the main building at the fairgrounds and those kind of things. So you approve those every year around July. And then ever so often we have to modify those, we can modify those rates when there is a change in state funding and our state rates in that. This is the case with the DMAP rate. This is the rate that behavioral health charges for a majority of their services that they provide. They input the new rates into their billing system, and then it generates the amounts of revenue accordingly with the new rates. And I'm asking the board to consider the changes in rates. You can see that they're quite extensive. There's a lot of billing codes in the behavioral health world. But this isn't something the county chooses to raise the rates in that. This is the new rates that are being applied across the board in different CCO areas and that. Just asking to do that. Otherwise, if you choose, you could delay that. You could wait till the July rates. The only thing you would be doing is leaving money on the table or that will not affect the rate there and that. This is just what we charge and get reimbursed for. So even though it involves taxpayer money, these are the rates that are almost statewide and being utilized by all other counties when charging their billings out for behavioral health.
Questions?
Lots of them. And so I asked for this to be a separated item so that I could actually have those questions on the record. So I get that this is something we do annually along with others. And but always for the record, my questions come up about, for example, who's paying the bill for these increased rates? And the fact is it comes out of Oregon Treasury, which is income taxes. Right? So that's correct. And
Treasury and federal money, whatever else funds these
income taxes.
Yeah,
all of it. So my concerns, of course, are these continued increases and where's the money going to go? And again, the chart lays out somewhat where the money's going to go. These increased rates. It's not clearly spoken in that chart. I don't have it, so I can't address it specifically. I don't have it in my electronic media. Thank you. But I just want to make certain that folks know that this is not property taxes, and that this isn't something that we're looking for a way to tap you. We're looking for a way to be consistent across the board with the entire system, all counties in the rates for this variety of issues, primarily around behavioral health services.
And for the record, Polk County, at least Polk County property taxes, the behavioral health fund is completely funded by state and federal monies and charges for services and that. There is no general fund money or property tax money going into the behavioral health fund. There hasn't been since I've been budget officer 26 years ago. So that's been a pretty much a policy decision by the board, and that, and again, they don't need the support of the general fund to help maintain their operations. There is no property tax money going into it, but there is income tax and federal tax and all those things that are involved in behavioral health. It's not a free system, but it's not being charged, at least through the property tax system for us.
And this is not a legislative act that does this. This is purely departmental in the state of Oregon, right? And do you know what the increase, if adopted, equals for Polk County? What's the delta?
Well, because behavioral health funding is so convoluted and they have so many different streams coming, my guess is the DMAP rate by itself is going to contribute probably an additional $100,000 to their program. You're talking about a $34 million budget and could grow depending on what happens at the legislature and the final budget numbers. So it's not a big increase in the revenue. It's not going to expand a lot of programs. It's just going to help maintain the service delivery level for those certain functions and make it cost appropriate in their opinion.
Thank you for that comparison. Actually, that was an important piece of, again, for the record, our behavioral health budget in Polk County is over $34 million. Just that department alone. So $100,000 adjustment is a long ways from right sizing. I'm editorializing here, from right sizing the demands of the legislature and the governor to increase salaries and benefits in these departments.
This will go to help offset that a little.
Thank you.
It's not going to correct what we implemented earlier.
So this is part of our process of keeping up with the allowed rates so that we can continue to provide. And by the way, editorializing, for Polk County, we are almost exclusively the behavioral health provider in this county. I don't know that we have any really substantial independent providers.
No, I would say we provide 95 to 98% of all the behavioral health services in the county. Unlike our neighbor, Marion County, who's closer to 50-50. They have a lot of nonprofits and a lot of contractors that they contract with to provide those services. Those contractors tend not to come over to our side of the river. There is some element in West Salem, but other than that, there is very little in the contracting world.
And then for the record, can you define DMAP?
That's the one question I hoped you wouldn't ask.
Can anyone define DMAP?
We'll get an answer for you, but
I'd like to make sure that's on the record.
I know.
I'm confident people, I know I've heard it, but I can't remember what it stands
yeah,
for.
I've only referred to it as the DMAP rate, and that's all I've ever heard. I've never asked for.
Thanks. Didn't mean to embarrass you. Sorry. Just
It's fine.
to make sure we got it on the record. It just
Yes.
occurred to me.
I'll get.
Didn't find the acronym.
Yep, I'll get that answer for you though. Or Morgan will.
Thank you. I move to approve.
All right, I'll second that. Any further discussion? To approve resolution 23-. Yes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Just one more point for the record that when when you say we're the only provider, that's for OHP clients, people on
Correct.
OHP. The private providers is a separate
Yes.
deal. Just want to make that. Okay. So now we can move on to a community corrections update. We have our Director of Community Corrections, Jody Merritt, with us. Please join us. We have your hand out. Good morning.
So I chose to focus primarily on adult home probation. I know that you are aware that we also have juvenile probation as well as community service. So I'm just going to go through adult home probation this time, kind of highlight some additional things that the department's doing that I'm very proud of them for. So just a general information, we're fully staffed at 13 FTE. We have 9 parole and probation officers. 2 are currently in training, so they're not carrying a full caseload at this point. We have 2 of our full-time staff that are actually taking on the training for them. So not only are they doing their job and supervising their caseloads, but they're also teaching them the new training, how we do things, what a probation officer is, et cetera. So that's an added workload for them. They're doing an exceptional job with that. We have a caseload specialist, office manager, and the PO supervisor, as well as myself in that division. Right now, our caseload is at 481 clients. That was as of Monday. And I provided a breakdown here for you based off of our specialized caseload. So our domestic violence caseload, we have 55 clients on that. 1 PO oversees that caseload. Sex offender, we have 68, and that's actually split into 2 caseloads under 1 PO. Approximately 20 of those are a lower risk, and so they are supervised in a different manner than a medium and high risk. Our FACT caseload and our drug court is supervised by 1 PO. Our FACT currently has 22 clients, and that's our forensic assertive community treatment. So that's our partnership with behavioral health in those higher risk mental health cases. And then our drug court, currently we have 9 clients in that program, 8 of which are active. 1 is currently in residential treatment. And then we have our general geographic. We have approximately 184 clients that are overseen by 4 probation officers. Again, that if you add up the FT at that point, that's not going to equal 9. And that is primarily because we have 2 in training, not carrying caseloads. We also have the reduced supervision unit, and that is our low risk. It also covers our intake. So there's approximately 141 clients on there. And those are monitored by our caseload specialist in collaboration with our PO supervisor as well. And the lower risk folks are ones that don't report into the office. We're monitoring the case based off of their compliance with their court orders. So primarily I gave you a graph here that kind of identifies over the past few years how the population has changed, and I did add some impact there as well. As you know, our state funded population is primarily felony and misdemeanor cases. The misdemeanor cases were the possession of controlled substances, however, Measure 110 did impact that. And then we also had Senate Bill 497 that was passed in the last session that allowed funding for sex abuse 3 cases, as well as assault 4 and menacing that are constituting domestic violence. So there has to be specific language put on the court order in order for those cases to be considered funded. So right now we only have 5 remaining PCS cases on our caseload. We used to have upwards in 80 to 100 of those cases. Again, Measure 110 is a big impact on that. And then currently we have 23 funded cases of the misdemeanor, the constituting domestic violence, the assault 4, menacing, and sex abuse 3. So overall, there's about 188 misdemeanor cases that the county is supporting in our focus on public safety and holding offenders accountable. So that is county funded.
What was What was House Bill 2355 again?
Oh, I apologize. So House Bill 2355 was the legislation that actually moved the possession of controlled substances from felonies to misdemeanors. And then as you see, then it went to decriminalization, not too far off of that. So that actually, and I included that primarily to show that our misdemeanor population in the 1819 did increase. Our felonies didn't necessarily decrease, but those new cases, those new PCS cases coming on increased the misdemeanor. Felonies remained the same until they dropped off. So. And then on the backside, I did put in here our new probation cases. So those are our cases that do come directly from the court, doesn't include our prison releases. And again, I did put the same Health Bill 2355 COVID and Measure 110 and that Senate Bill 497 on there to kind of show the progression. With the decriminalization of Measure 110, our overall population has decreased as to be expected. And so then COVID was quite the impact as well, with the justice system basically stalling and then getting it back on track. You can see in the 21-22 and then in the current year. So any questions on that so far? So I did also want to highlight, so not only do we do the supervision of the clients, but we provide a variety of resources to them as well through our general fund budget as well as our state funding. And a lot of those resources are basic needs that we actually collaborate with behavioral health on, whether it's driver's license, housing, stipends, transitional housing, sex offender treatment, polygraph for that sex offender population. We do have one of our staff, our caseload specialist, is an OHP assister, and so we do assist getting them signed up for OHP as well. So we work holistically with them in collaboration with behavioral health. It's not just an enforcement piece, as you know. So we work pretty hard with our clients to try and help them access whatever services they may need. So what I wanted to highlight is our community corrections review. Per statute, the Department of Corrections is required to come in biannually and review each department across the state to determine their compliance with their intergovernmental agreement and our administrative rules. And so when I first came into this position, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had our first one. And so I was able to actually compare our one that we just recently had that we received in December back five years. And so we've made some tremendous progress. And I know that I did a comparison for you that was submitted through your budget process as well. If you'd like to see it again, and I can meet with you and go through and explain certain details on it, but I'm going to highlight a few of those for you. So overall, our transfer compliance per OAR, we're about 84% of our clients under our supervision reside in Polk County, with about 15% living outside. So that 15% we did look at is highlighted in our report that they are pending a transfer. They're not just out living somewhere else without our knowledge. We're actually in the process of transferring them to another location. So that is positive for us. Each month we receive a list from the state of every person on supervision and what their addresses are. And so my staff actually goes through and filters through that, determines who's living in Polk County, Polk County clients who are not living in Polk County, and then we run those down. So we're actually contacting other counties saying, why are they living here? Where's the transfer? Get them out of our county if it's not appropriate place for them. So we are focused on assuring that those people living in Polk County are supervised by us, or they're being in the process of transfer, or we're asking for them to return to their county. So we had one case in particular that really pushed that, and I started asking for that list that is now given to every department statewide, because we had a very high risk, high profile individual that was living here being supervised by another county, and we had no idea. And so it hit our multidisciplinary team. And so we started asking questions. And then once we dove into it, it was not something we wanted, not supervised by us. And obviously we returned him back to the county because he just wouldn't allow us to get into the home. So we couldn't do our job. So he vacated. So that really pushed us to focus on public safety, making sure that the folks who are here are supervised, they're being held accountable, and they're getting the oversight that they're supposed to. So we do look at that monthly, and it's a good process for us. So our case management, our contact standards, so each county gets to identify what their contact standards are. We have identified our contact standards in definition of measurable. The state has moved to measurable contacts, and the definition of that is primarily face-to-face contact that elicits change in positive pro-social growth. So that's working directly with the individual. That's not talking to treatment providers. That's not talking to family members. Those don't count, though we require those contacts as well. So we have a certain number of measurable contacts, individual, face-to-face with the client, as well as a certain amount of contact with collateral information, whether it's employer treatment, family, community, outreach, whatever. So our contact standards, we actually are above and beyond and this is for measurable contact only. So this is our face-to-face. And so we've actually exceeded our contacts. The low risk is technically we shouldn't be seeing our low risk people face-to-face. However, the state recognizes a measurable contact as a telephone on the phone with the client. I do not recognize that as a measurable contact because I don't believe on the phone you can do the level of impact needed to make pro-social change. So our office contact requirement does not include that. The state does. They don't separate that out because, again, as you know, the state system that we operate in is very archaic. And so having to piece certain things out, they're not able to do. So they just dump it all in and they say, you kind of figure it out. So it's included in here just so that you're aware. We do have a number of contacts with our low risk folks on the phone. They come into the office, so we are having contact with them. It's not evidence-based to have a high level of contact with low risk individuals. But a majority of this, once we looked into it, is really the telephone contact, them calling, asking questions, us calling them, asking questions of them, et cetera. So Senate Bill 1510, which passed through the 2022 regular session, was that overall justice reform bill that impacted both law enforcement as well as us. So they're currently in the rule writing process to standardize a definition, which is the measurable contacts, as well as the number of contacts that is going to be expected across all counties. So they're in the rule writing stage of that. I believe that we will be able to meet those contacts without concern based off of the information that I have is in the rule writing process, as well as what we're already doing. So, but they are finally standardizing that. They did provide that local control for each county to determine what's appropriate for them. And now that they did make that change. One of the biggest pieces for us is, again, administrative rule based off of assessments. We are required to complete our assessment and case plan within 60 days of sentencing. So at this point, once this one came out, we were at a 70% completion rate. The state considers the higher end percentage is 75 to 85%. That if you meet that 75 to 85%, then you're good. You're meeting the standards they expect. The rest of that, the 85 to 100%, we can't get all of them in because either they've gone right out of the gates, they're in jail during that 60 days, we can't get to them. Our jail, obviously we can, but if they're in another jail, we can't. So there's a variety of factors that come into play. They went to residential treatment right off the bat. There's just a number of factors that we just can't get to them within that 60 days. And the state understands that and gives us that grace. So initially with this, this review, we were at 70%. Since that time, and again, that was in December. So our second quarter, we increased that to 82%. And then third quarter, we are at 86%. And really we only have 2 past due. So again, we're so small, a small number for us really on a percentage is somewhat impactful, but only 2 were past due, and those were folks that were on abscond. So I think we're doing a great job with that. Our interstate compact compliance, which really kind of goes through our case closures, violation response, our replies to case closures, progress reports, transfer replies, and replies for reporting instructions. We're at 100% for each of those factors. Previously, the original one 5 years ago, we were anywhere from 100% to 66% based off of those. So our staff was able to get all of those up to 100%, which was just amazing. So some additional community corrections goals that we've had are positive case closures. As you can see, for probation for the second half of 21, first half of 22, we're at 53.4% and then increased to 69.45. And then I have the state comparison next to that as well. So we're exceeding the second half of 21, we were a little below the state standard. That was also obviously during the COVID time that we were able to pop that right up. And then our post-prison supervision, 79.1 to 82.4 in comparison to the state, we're exceeding those averages. Our employment, we're at 59% respectively, states at 57 to 58%. This employment piece is a little tricky, and I know that there's focus on employment. What we are finding is that our clients that are in need of a job are getting jobs. The struggle are those with sex offense charges. And so we've been able to direct them to different locations that aren't concerned with that level of charge. What this number, 59%, does seem fairly low considering the overall population. However, what's not included in this is those clients that are receiving some type of Social Security disability or some type of state service that they're unable to work. So the system isn't able to separate that out. Our CCR does not actually identify the separation, which we've asked them to try and figure out how to do that.
I think it could control for those who aren't have barriers to employment.
Right.
Excuse me.
Right. And this 59% is for those who have any employment, whether it's part-time employment, full-time employment, but we have a code separate to identify those that are receiving disability services. And so they just haven't separated that out to hand it to us. And so we were, our association president was questioned at the legislature about this. So this is a really low number. This is not what's going on. And so my response to that was, well, where's the disability service piece? Because that would get us up to 75 to 80%. I'm confident of.
With able-bodied people who are
right
at their age.
Yeah. So there needs to be some type of consideration definition with this to truly identify that this isn't our entire population. So over half of our population are not, just sitting on their loins, not working. Some are receiving additional services. Some are retired. Some don't want to work because they're a housewife, so there's a variety of factors that come into play. And so they're looking at that at this point to see if there's some way we can separate that out and then combine it. So it's actually a true picture of what's happening employment wise with our population.
You don't separate by gender or anything?
We can separate it by, no, we cannot separate gender and employment. Our system doesn't permit that. Not that I'm aware of.
Interesting. Okay.
And I don't know that you've actually seen our system, but it's not old black screen, green writing.
Heard about it.
Yeah, yes. So
What difference would it make?
I don't think that it would gender wise.
What would you do about it? Nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing I
Right.
can do about it, but yeah.
I mean, as far as your program is concerned, this is just a reporting number.
Mhm.
Doesn't help you to do anything different.
No, because quite frankly, when we do our assessments and case plans, if they're in need of employment or schooling, then we are focused on that and helping them get that. So looking at the bigger picture, I'm not as concerned with, I'm concerned with the individual and what are we doing to help you meet your goals and be pro-social, so that you're not coming back to visit us at a later time. That's our goal. But as a measurable outcome, there's not very many things you can measure us on other than these factors. So,
I just say that with the caveat that there is a workforce board
Mhm.
that is charged with that responsibility.
Yeah.
And community colleges that are reaching out for dollars, they can't make any changes in those numbers. I mean, in consequence, they can have a goal for it, but
yeah.
there's no mandate to make that happen.
So our treatment numbers were at 32%, the state's at 29. Again, that seems like a very small number. But I will throw the caveat in as our system is not perfect in that manner. So we refer those able-bodied to treatment. There's times when we don't focus on treatment because we're focused on housing or we're focused on mental health. Trying to engage them with mental health on the front end. So a referral doesn't reflect into this number as treatment entry. So again, if you look at our system is not perfect. If we pull any treatment referrals, it would be in the 60% range. It's the engagement and treatment that they're looking at this point, and that's when we enter them into treatment. And for us, that was a data entry piece a while back. And so we've made progress in assuring that we're doing that additional data entry piece. There's a lot of factors that kind of, pieces that go into place in the case management.
You define treatment, what that entails, the range of what that entails.
Treatment really could entail anything from substance use disorder, mental health, anger management, domestic violence, sex offender treatment. It could be family treatment, family one-on-one counseling, anything that is of need based off of their circumstances, their charge, and their case plan. Yeah.
So you said, let me back up to the referral element because that's not here.
Yeah.
And that is the overlay I want to know about. And it's something I harp about quite a bit with all of our challenges, is that we can try to point people towards treatment, but you can't make them do it.
Yes.
And so you said 60%. Is that just an anecdote here, a real number that you?
I identify 60% because all of our court orders require or identify that they are referred to substance use disorder treatment and follow any recommended treatment. If there's a mental health component, then that is a condition as well, that they're referred for an assessment and follow any recommended treatment. So the assessment is also separate. So we could refer you for an assessment. They say no recommended treatment. We closed you out, but we referred you. But that's not included in this because an assessment is not treatment. So again, it's not a perfect system. So we have a number of those that we will refer over to an assessment. They complete the assessment. There's no recommended treatment. We close it, but it's not reflective in the treatment numbers because it's not considered treatment. So overall, our population, I say 60% because there's about 40 that just can't quite get there, or we refer them, they don't go. They have other challenges that they just can't get there. That's what I mean by that. And so 60%, I think, is a very conservative estimate on my part, but I do know based off of looking at case plans, our medium and high risk population, 90% of them are referred. It's those lower risks that are referred that aren't treatment's not recommended because that's their lower risk. So that's not usually a factor for them at that point in time.
So I'd like, not today, but to have a further breakdown of the treatment protocol, the referral process, the responsiveness across the board.
I can try and get that from
Thank you.
out of that.
Again, it's an important element in socializing and trying to correct behaviors.
Yeah.
And I think this this kind of thing tells a story to our constituents out there of some of the things, some of the barriers, some of the challenges we're up against. Like, it's in our protocol and we have it, we're trying, but this is the challenges that we have. I'm editorializing, of course, but the challenges that we have with, people have free will. And
Yes. Yes, they do. And on supervision, they do have free will. However, that is a violation of their probation if there's recommended treatment and they don't follow through, they don't attend. That's something that we try really hard to work with them on. And then if it's a probation case, we refer them back to the court and the judge can interact with them on that level. But, we've tried to incorporate treatment services in our office. We have behavioral health station in our office. And so we work with them very closely, both on the mental health aspect as well as substance use, peer support. They're starting our behavioral health counselor that is in the office is going to be putting together anger management classes right there in the office. So it's more of a one-stop shop because they get lost the 2 blocks going down to the academy building, or they get lost in the academy building. So yes, I do as well. So we've tried really hard to blend our services. And a lot of that has to do with there's just something more important as to why they can't get there. They'll go to the bus stop and not go the extra block. I mean, it was just literally halfway in between us. And a lot of it is just, there's still that stigma of treatment. There's still that stigma of mental health treatment. And so we're trying to decrease that stigma by just having it served right there in the office. Even life skills classes, talking to them about, hygiene, how to interact with people, how to deal with, a variety of situations, how to say no and walk away. So we're working on a variety of those pieces just to get it done right with us. That way they have to come see us. Then we can say, oh, hey, let's chat with behavioral health. They're right here. And then they realize that they're not as scary. They think we're scary most days, but that way we actually have behavioral health sit in on our PO meetings. We'll have them sit right there. That way, maybe we're not communicating well with the client and it needs to be communicated a different way. We have them involved in a lot of our clientele that are actually under DD services. We are not experts in interacting with individuals who have that level of challenges, but we're being expected to. So the only response we can have, because my staff, I don't know how to communicate with them. Like, well, let's pull behavioral health in and you can meet with them every time. The both of you can meet with that client. And it's increased engagement. It's taught our staff different ways to communicate, which is extremely important with that population. Because we don't want to scare them, but we want them to be safe. We want the community to be safe, and we want them to follow through with their expectations. So it's been a challenge, and especially with the increase in mental health, it's been a challenge. But behavioral health is an amazing partner, and we work really well together. So we have the same goals. So I will
you have adequate representation from behavioral health in your office or when as you need them.
Yes. When we call, they come. Yeah, absolutely. And our collaborative, the FACT program, that Forensic Assertive Community Treatment Mental Health Program, we have a PO embedded with that team. And that team includes a counselor, peer support, case manager, supervisor, and then on top of that, both Jennifer Leaf and myself regularly jump in just to see how it's going. We just chatted about it this week. She believes the program is going amazingly well, as do I. We're working really well together. Her staff is in our office meeting with the PO and the client regularly. And that's in addition to the staff that actually has an office in our building.
When do you anticipate the report for FACT and on an annual report?
I have just chatted with her about that. Again, I'm working on that for you. So
It'd be a nice separate presentation.
it would be separate. I chatted with her about that again. I think that it is please don't take it as an excuse, but I think the focus for behavioral health has moved to aid and assist. And so I'm trying to bring it back. And so I think that that has been delegated from my last conversation. So I am working on that for you. So restitution, that one's always a difficult one. But what I will say about Polk County is that we work really hard to pay our bills or our expectations there, as we saw with our supervision fees prior to them eliminating that. I mean, we were number 3 in the state as far as collection. Our clients were accountable. And these are not great numbers when it comes to restitution overall, but we are exceeding the state, which is, I think we're doing a great job. Our staff do focus on restitution. It is a requirement for earned discharge now that they have a certain amount of payments towards restitution. It used to be, and I will say it's decreased in requirements. It used to be you had to have your restitution paid in full to be eligible for earned discharge. But that movement away from focusing everything on money has changed, but our focus has continued to be pay something. Hey, just $5, don't care, go pay something.
We've seen a difference since that change in contacts, level, rate of contact and supervision contacts. People, if they're not paying, not engaging in the other services.
No, I think I think that the only thing that we had seen was an impact of COVID. And so I believe with everybody in society, we have our behaviors have changed as a result of COVID. And so we're trying to get back to what we were pre-COVID. I think that our staff has done a great job in doing that, but because of COVID, we had some positive outcomes of that as well, is that we're out in the community. We're meeting them in the Walgreens parking lot. We're meeting them in West Salem Behavioral Health. We're going out to Grand Ron Police Station to meet with folks to try and eliminate some of the barriers of transportation. We're going into, we'll go to the camps to try and find them in the camps. We're trying to be out more. COVID pulled us back on that a little bit, but we started doing that more because the public transportation getting them to us was a little bit, a little bit on the odd side. And so getting us back out and trying to meet with them out in the community is just as effective, if not more so, than them coming to us because of the various other challenges that they have with transportation and daycare and life challenges. So we're trying to work with them to eliminate the barriers, but also make sure that they're meeting their requirements. And so we're doing a great job on that. It's just getting back to that. And I would blame COVID for that more so than the financial obligations. I think that what we've found, at least initially, was the financial obligation piece was, what do you mean I don't have to pay? But I always pay. So that was, you don't owe us any money, you're good. So that was just the change. It was the change of, I have this expectation, I know what it is, I'm doing it. Now I don't. And you just have that odd feeling of, I feel like I'm not doing something I'm supposed to do. So I think our clients are really great in that aspect. So community service, our community service is amazing. I think that we all know that. I will, because of COVID and some sentencing changes, the number of community service hours has decreased. So we're still trying to re-engage the clients. And again, I will say it's COVID, that they just haven't made that a priority over the last 2 or 3 years. And so engaging them back into that, we're doing better now. Within the last few months, we are doing much better than what we were previously. We would get maybe 5 people show up a week when we used to get 5 to 8 a day. But a lot of that also has to do with the decrease in cases we're getting. There was that constitution change around slavery. And so even though the language is specific that community service can be ordered in response to a criminal violation or supervision, just sometimes the cases we're getting from other counties don't have anything when they used to. And then, we're just reduced cases. So it's a reduced number of people and hours, but we're still doing a great job around that too. And then our recidivism rates, again, that's not all on us, but I think that we're doing a fairly decent job is around incarceration, our arrest and conviction. It's clear that we are convicting the people that we're arresting more so in comparison to the state based off of these percentages. And so I think that overall, we're holding people accountable for criminal actions. And then we're working fairly hard on our end to try and assure that they're not coming back, but we can only do what we can do. So we're not the only factor in recidivism numbers on that. We don't control local law enforcement in arresting or individual behavior as well.
So just so you understand the numbers for the record, under this recidivism rate, it says current 3-year recidivism rates. This is reported in the first half of 2019.
Yes.
Okay, so it's for 3 years prior.
Cohort of those off supervision in the first half of 2019.
All pre-COVID numbers.
Mhm.
And so the arrest rate is 49.6% of those encounters.
Mhm.
And the conviction rate must be 38.8% of the arrests,
Yes.
not of the encounters. Okay, so I just want to make sure. And then 9.9% of the conviction are incarcerated.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and the state, again, I mean, we're just barely above the state at 48.1, we're at 49.6. So we're tracking with the state with the exception of that incarceration piece. So, because the incarcerations at ours is at 9.9, the state's at 12.4. So we're actually doing fairly well on that incarceration piece. So any questions before I move forward on?
Yeah. Additionally, so this is all coming through a CCR from Department of Corrections, all of this. So you don't generate any of these numbers when you report, but they put the numbers together. Send it in the report.
System, they pull reports out of the system.
Right. And so do you and your peers compare numbers, compare reports?
No, not actually.
Yeah. I'd like to know where the high bar is. That's also an ask. Who's meeting the highest bar on this report? What county? In the state of Oregon?
I will ask.
Because it's sad that you have to have the state as the bar to exceed. That's not good enough for me. What I want to know is what's the best county in the state? What are they doing relative to the same kind of sharing? And that's the bar we should be trying to achieve. Not trying to get over the state's bar. Sorry, state, but you're not a shining example of how to do it right.
Well, yes. And so in the state numbers is compiled all 36 counties and averaged. So, yes, it would be good to know. And we can look at recidivism at least on the Criminal Justice Commission dashboard and just go through and look at everybody's numbers. The hard thing is we're a small county, any little bit really skews our numbers because, I mean, if we sentence 3 instead of 1, I mean, it shows, 15, 20% jump. And so if you look at our dashboards, we're all over the place.
Those total number, those sums of the populations we're looking at too, just so we can see those.
Yeah.
There's small numbers of what the outliers are.
I want to make sure that if we have an executive session, that
You
can
need-
be available. Otherwise, I have to go.
Okay. No. Okay, so we're good.
Okay. So I
10 o'clock meeting.
Okay,
I have to leave. So
okay,
I need to go.
okay.
So if we're doing executive, then I need to go.
Looks like we're not.
So real quick, moving forward, this is what we're focused on. I'm bringing in some GPS electronic monitoring. We still have some very high risk individuals coming out of prison that we're going to be looking at utilizing that for our high risk sexually violent clients moving forward. Our 60-day assessment rule, we're focused on that, as I've explained. Our statewide contact standards will be changing, and so those are something that we will be implementing, assuring that we're in compliance with, which again, I don't believe that we'll have any issues with that based off of our current outcomes. And we've discussed previously, there's future legislative impacts that will be coming down. Earned discharge, I believe they just approved, it's being moved on to sign by the governor to make post-prison supervision individuals retroactively eligible for EDIS, for earned discharge. And so that will be anybody who's on supervision from back to 2015. If they meet criteria, then that will decrease our population. And then as you know, also we're working with Family Community Outreach on the Equity Action Plan. We're receiving some favorable feedback from our clients as well as staff around our ability to be culturally responsive and responding to a lot of those community barriers for the underserved population. So that is coming. We should have that finalized in December, which you guys will be notified of.
We'll work with the AOC Public Safety Steering Committee on potential reductions in budget in the next biennium. And I'm really curious to hear from other commissioners and judges what that means for them. So we can perhaps form a bit of a call to action to make sure we're not reducing our funding despite having reductions in numbers of folks supervised for possession of other drug-related crimes.
Right, a refocus on funding for service.
Yes.
For the expectations and administrative rules that we're expected to adhere to instead of baseline. So counties aren't opting out. There's a big difference between the two of those. And especially with the legislative impacts, I don't believe, my understanding is that it was an unforeseen consequence. I don't believe it was intentional that it would impact community corrections the way that it does, because we do a good job. We work really hard to assure public safety and help our clients get back on track. It's a lot of work. So,
well, great job and great news on the recent review. Yeah. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Jody.
One more thing for the record. Thank you to Mr. Hanson for explanation of DMAP.
That's what I was gonna jump in with. I got it too.
I have it. I have it. There it is.
It's the administration,
For the record.
state administration.
Yep. For Oregon Health Plan.
With that. Looking for the email.
Let's stop for a second.
I was looking for the email, sorry. Anything else? All right, with that, we're adjourned.